Hey everyone, I am Justin and that is Kyle, and we are the Fantasy Football Upside. Today is our third episode of the Upside series that we're coming out with. We're going through our high upside QBs, Kyle. Yes. In the last two episodes, we have discussed our top 4 upside RBs and wide receivers, not to be confused with the restaurant RBs, Kyle.
You mean running backs? Oh, I did. Yeah. I was hungry.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. Yeah. Make sure to check those out. Kyle, point to where they can check that out.
Up there somewhere. I don't know. Maybe this side, maybe this side. I don't know. My camera's reversed, and so I can't tell. It's up there.
Well, a better way is to go ahead and click the link in the description below. That's easier.
That's one's easier.
That's probably easier.
Yeah.
So we've created the Upside series. We've created the Fantasy Football Upside because we want to help you win your league this year. And that starts with the draft. We're spending the rest of the summer preparing you to dominate the draft. So you win your draft to win your league, Kyle. If you want to learn how to draft and to win and what moves to make during the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button, click that bell. If you're watching on YouTube, and give us a thumbs up or comment. Once again, hey, if you go ahead and leave a comment or a question, it'll be answered. And we'll throw you a little shout out on here as well.
Yeah.
So we'll be here to help you every week this year, and we're just going to keep ramping up this content, Kyle.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, as you can tell probably by now, this is the third episode of this week already.
Yes.
And we've got plans for a couple more here. So we're going to be pushing content out, getting everybody ready with as much content as possible, as streamlined as possible. Keep your eyes peeled for more. And also keep your eyes peeled for the Victory Draft Kit. We're working on it. We're getting it ready. It's going to be great. It's going to help you get, it's going to help you dominate your draft and get ready for it. It's going to help you win your league. It's going to have all kinds of information with, rankings, projections, deep sleepers, tiers, all these guys that we're talking about as high upside candidates, breakout players, all that sort of stuff. Everything's going to be in there. Who's overvalued, who you should avoid, who we think you should avoid. Mm-hmm. Draft strategies dependent upon the position that you're sitting in, all that stuff. So it's going to be just in time for fantasy drafting season, and it's going to help you win your league this year. All right. So keep your eyes peeled for that. If you do buy it early, you're going to get every edition that we put out up until the time that we stop putting them out for this year. And we're going to stop putting them out once the week 1 starts. All right. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll let you know when that link is up and ready to go. All right. Okay. So let's get into these high upside cubes. These QBs, right?
QBs.
Yep. Talking cubes. All right. So these QBs, as we talked about with the running backs and the wide receivers, the running backs, not RBs, running backs. They're not necessarily guys that are being drafted as QB1s. They may not even be getting drafted as QB2s. I don't know. We'll see. We're only talking about 2 of them today, though. We got one each, and that's what we're sticking to today with them. But look, these guys could be consistent players for you. Guys who are solid enough that you can save elsewhere in the draft. You can spend your capital and you can save on the QB capital side of things. By spending less on your QB, you can spend more on the other spots that are more difficult to fill. Okay. Absolutely. So these guys have the potential to really lift your team and do what you need at that QB position.
Yep.
They're not going to be the guys that by themselves will win the league for you. We're not telling you that these guys are going to be QB1 for the season. That's not what we're saying. Okay.
We're not saying they're league winners. Yeah.
No, that's not what this is. But hey, man, they could perform at a level that could really, really elevate the rest of your team. Okay. So without further ado, Justin, who do you have as your high upside QB for the season?
So my upside QB for the season is Mr. Ben Roethlisberger of the Steelers. So you might be thinking, upside, 38-year-old. Usually those two don't come together. The reason why there's an upside pick here is because he's going on Fantasy Football Calculator as QB 19. That's 5th pick in the 12th round. That's
terrible. I mean, as far as the pick that he's going at, like, why?
It's crazy how quickly people forget what he did in 2018. So
He was getting drafted like heavily last year going into the season.
Mhm. He
It was
was.
only a year ago. It
Yeah, and the
wasn't like
reason
his
why is
shoulder
because
fell off.
it was his elbow.
Well, still,
The
his arm
elbow.
didn't fall off. It's there.
The
It's still
elbow.
there.
So he finished second in 2018. It was behind only your guy Patrick Mahomes. So in 2018, he led the league in dropbacks, 712, little 7 number in there for you.
There you go.
Attempts 675.
7 miles an hour.
And he also led the league in completions with 452. So the thing with Ben, he's finished 8th or better in fantasy football 5 years in a row before last year. So yes, we've already mentioned
No,
injury.
he's too old. He couldn't have
Too
done
old.
that. He's too old.
Too old. Too
Yeah,
high.
but
What does that even mean, too high?
But people are going to draft Phillip Rivers as though he's not the same age and
Right.
came out the same time,
Right.
Yeah.
Granted, Rivers isn't coming back from an elbow surgery. I don't know why elbow.
Yeah, you say funny. Elbow funny.
Yeah, I'm from Indiana, guys. So I don't think they really actually came out with the exact diagnosis or the exact surgery. Rumors of it was Tommy John. So all we really know is there was ligament damage in there, and they went in and fixed it. So there has been videos out there. I'm sure if you're watching this, you've probably already seen the videos of him shaving his beard and his hair, getting a haircut, and throwing the pigskin around with Juju Smith-Schuster.
Slinging the old pigskin.
Slinging the pigskin with him. Ryan Switzer, James Conner was out there. So, I mean, that's all I need.
Yeah.
I just need a hype video just like that. So, but all reports out there as well. He looks to be ahead of schedule. And whenever you think of Tommy John, I think a lot of people probably think of baseball. For QBs, it's a totally different because of the weight of the ball they're throwing and the speed of their throwing. So it doesn't take as long for quarterbacks to recover from Tommy John than it does pitchers. So I already kind of mentioned some weapons. Juju, I love me some Juju Smith-Schuster. He should be back in the slot this year, which he dominates. We've talked about Deante Johnson. I believe you have.
Yeah.
He's one of your breakout players. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. He's on the outside. Got James Washington. I believe he won a wide receiver award in college, so may not be frowned upon. And then they just
something like that.
They drafted Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame, I believe, in the 2nd round.
Never heard of him.
So he's got weapons. He still has some great wide receiver weapons that are young. He's also got some good running backs on the roster to kind of help him out because he does like to throw the running backs as well. I mentioned James Conner. Benny Snell is actually out there too. Anthony McFarland Jr. I think we both kind of like him as well. He's a rookie coming in. He's got some upside.
He's a guided missile.
Exactly. Exactly. I feel like that's somebody you want on your team.
Yeah.
Well, and not to mention, the offensive line is still pretty dang solid as well.
Yeah.
And this is just, Kyle, this is insane value. QB 19. He is always one of those, like the last couple of years, it always seems like he always performs better at home, which I a lot of QBs perform better at home, but he's one of those big ones with a lot of fluctuation between his home away splits. So we're not probably a big proponent of having 2 QBs on your roster, but if you kind of stream some QBs here or there, stream Big Ben at home, that wouldn't be a bad decision. Would not be a bad decision.
I always feel like in the last few years, he's one of those guys who he's getting drafted, but he's solid for whoever has him, but he's not flashy necessarily.
Right.
So that's great. That's exactly what you're looking for here. You're looking for that upside, that value pick that is going to still finish as a QB1.
Well, he's not flashy because he's
got
not
all
going to be breaking off any kind of runs or anything like that.
No.
I mean, even his throwing pattern doesn't look to be that flashy. I mean, he just gets it done.
Yeah.
Compact. Yeah. It's good luck bringing him down.
Well, it's a high efficiency offense. And then you've got guys who are great at yards after the catch. I mean, Deante Johnson's great at that. Juju Smith-Schuster's great at that. James Conner's really good at that.
Love me some yak.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that offense is built to do. Right. It's like Jimmy Garoppolo, but in an offense that actually wants to throw it a little further than 2 yards,
It's like, the 49ers.
And throws it more than they run it.
They trust their QB.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they trust him to be the guy who's running the show there. I mean, more than anything, because they haven't been a running team since Le'Veon Bell left. So
Right. Well, even then,
it's all on the arm of Big Ben. It really,
Yeah.
truly is. So
I mean, because you really, I don't think you really want, as a Steelers, if you're a Steelers fan out there, I'm sure you don't want, Duck Hodges out there or Mason Rudolph out there
not
taking
again.
snaps under center. So
Yeah.
that might be frowned upon. I don't know if that would be good. I don't think so. I don't think so, Kyle. Who do you
No.
have as your
Oh.
high upside QB?
All right. Well, we've already talked about him once before. We're going to
Ooh.
talk about him again. And guess what? We're going to keep talking about him. And that is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is going currently as QB 15 on Fantasy Football Calculator, 6th pick of 10th round. Last time that we talked about him, he was going QB 16, 12th pick of the 10th round. So he's holding pretty steady, actually. Currently, we have him sitting as our QB 12, but he's definitely trending upwards in a lot of areas, I think. He's trending up on us. He's moved one position forward and on Fantasy Football Calculator, but he's another one of those guys we've talked about before that he might start falling backwards as the draft approaches because of the hype that gets thrown at the younger QBs, the guys
The Daniel
who are
Jones
not
of
coming
the
off an
world.
injury. Yeah. Well, I mean, so look, we both picked guys who are coming off of injuries, right? Missed considerable time, both of them. That's fine. But look, Stafford's only 32.
Right.
He's entering year 12 in the league for him. He only played 8 games last year, but look, he was still number 4 in fantasy points per game.
Well, yeah, he missed 8 games last year, but
Yeah.
I think that was his first time since, rookie year or something like that.
Yeah.
He missed something. So it's not like
Well,
he's
I remember seeing him. I think it was not a playoff game, but it was like to get it because I don't know that they've ever.
Oh, yeah, what he dislocated his shoulder?
He did something to his shoulder and he refused to
collarbone or
come out of
something
the
like that?
game. He grabbed his helmet and ran back on the field, and that was when they changed the rules on their sideline that the helmets were held by the trainers so that they couldn't get back on the field when they're injured. But look, like I said, he was 4th in points per fantasy points per game. He was 5th in fantasy points per drop back, despite missing all that time.
Yeah.
So we're both forecasting Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones to have fantastic years. Marvin Jones actually was in our wide receiver, high upside wide receiver episode. I believe that was Justin's.
That was one of mine.
One of Justin's, yeah. And
wide receiver 40.
Yeah.
It's going to outperform that.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, think about it. Like, you've got 2 awesome wide receivers who, if you agree with us, are going to do phenomenally. Then you have to believe that that's going to trickle over to Stafford to some extent, at least, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we've said it a million times. This is an offense that wants him to throw it 5,000 yards. Like, literally, that's what they want to do. Yeah. So, you're going to get a very valuable piece of that offense if you do that. Yeah. Look, I went over this last time that we talked about him. The crazy stat that'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that he played 8 games last year. But if you take those 8 games and you extrapolate them to the 16 game total, let's assume that he kept the same pace. He did it for half a season. Why not? Yeah, total. Don't talk about total. If you extrapolate that to 16 games, he would have finished with just over 419 points in fantasy football in a 6-point touchdown league, standard scoring, no
good?
PPR, nothing like that, right? I don't know. Is that any good? It would have been good enough for QB2 overall, and it would have only put him 67 points behind Lamar Jackson, who everybody basically just lost it over him because, he put up an amazing season, but to be within 67 points of the guy and you don't run any touchdowns in because you're not a running QB.
You're not a running QB.
That's ridiculous. So that tells you exactly what you're looking at here. You're looking at a high octane offense when it comes to the passing game.
Yep.
That's what they do. They do it very well. Even if you believe that there's a more effective running game that's coming into town now that DeAndre Swift's there, which we do, we believe that.
Yep.
You still have to imagine that Matthew Stafford's going to get his. He's going to put the numbers up for you. So
it all starts with him.
This guy's going in the middle of the 10th round. Middle of the 10th round. That's ridiculous. Okay. There's no reason to expect him to finish outside of QB1 territory.
Yeah.
Like, why? You've got two of the best pass catching players in the league. You've got one of the, arguably one of the better tandem receivers in the league.
Yeah.
You've got
there's
Julio Jones,
reliable-
Calvin Ridley. You've got
Yeah.
Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. I'm not ranking these guys, but you've got to put Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones in that conversation, and you have to consider the QB who throws the ball to them and what that offense really does is throw the lights out. That's all they do.
Mhm.
So look, he has a chance to dominate for you. So why not take that chance? It's not going to cost you much. And if you're going to put stock in a QB that you're not going to spend a lot on, he's one of the guys that you should be considering. He really, truly is.
Yep.
What's the worst that happens? You picked a guy in the 10th round and you missed on him. And week 3, week 4, you decide I'm going to cut bait and you have to go get a guy off the waiver wire.
Right. It's not a huge
drop. We've talked about it.
Because
From
you had
QB1
9
to
other
QB12
rounds to build up your roster.
QB1 to QB12, there is hardly a spread usually. It's really just been the last 2 years that Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes have had freakishly high totals. It's insane that people aren't considering Stafford as a legitimate threat for a top 5, top 6 QB. It just blows my mind.
You've mentioned it. He's got reliable weapons.
Yeah.
They had the second best drop percentage last year, 3.2%, and that
Kenny
was
Galladay's
with half
only
the
gotten
season
better.
without. Yeah, that was half the season without Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then they got TJ Hawkinson coming back. He's a second year. We love second year tight ends.
I don't know if I like Hawkinson.
I love second year tight ends. Hawkinson,
he could have a solid year. He's supposed to. Yeah. He's supposed to have a good year. I don't know if
they chucked the ball, man. They chucked the ball. Average depth of target was first.
Yeah, they love to throw it down the field. They love to go down the sidelines. That is Matthew Stafford all day long. Has been his whole career. So
he averaged the second most yards per game, 312.4. Do you remember whenever over 300 yards was a career day for QBs? This guy, all he does is just average it. That's all.
That's it. That's all. But why pay attention to him? Right?
No,
why draft him? He's not flashy enough. He's not the consensus pick. So. Join the sheep and lose your league. That's what you do. Think outside of the box. Spend wisely in the areas that you can. There's no reason to move up the draft charts and pick a guy who's only going to get you, if it's a really good season, 67 points more. Right? That's think about it. Lamar Jackson had an unbelievable season last year, and he was only 67 points ahead of where Stafford would have been had he played the whole year. And I don't think Stafford's an injury risk to be concerned about in this respect. I think he's going to be fine. Yeah. Other people might be afraid of it. I'm not. I'm going to take that chance. I have no qualms drafting him in the late rounds and just laughing my way to the championship. So, it's, if you want to miss out, that's fine. But I don't think you should, and I don't think that you have to. So,
correct.
All right.
Yep.
All right. That's it for our high upside QBs. I almost said wide receivers there. High upside QBs. That would have been really weird. Okay, so
Stafford on the outside. That'd be great.
I don't know if he's ever lined up in the slot.
Oh, I'm sure they've done some sort of stupid wildcat kind of thing.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure they have. Maybe back with Jim Bob Cooter as the offense coordinator. Yeah. The greatest coach's name out there, Jim Bob Cooter.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening to us on our podcast, which you have found on either Spotify, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts. We're looking for a few more. We're going to get them up there. If you have a podcast or a podcast distributor that you prefer, let us know. We'll try to get our podcast up there as well. You can also talk to us if you want at Twitter. We are at FFB_upside. On Facebook, we're at FFB upside, no underscore there. You can also search for the Fantasy Football Upside. You can reach us via email for the time being, at least. We are at thefantasyfootballupside@gmail.com. And we're working on a few things, guys. We've got a few things in the pipeline. We've got the Victory Draft Kit up next. We're probably going to have a website going here very shortly.
Yep.
And we're setting up Patreon. So we're going to get that going too. We'll get you that information so you can check that out and help support us, keep us moving forward, keep us going strong through the season. Make sure that you guys are here watching, listening to us. That helps too. Even if you're not helping out any other way, if you're watching or listening, that helps us keep going, okay? So make sure that you click that subscribe button, hit that bell. That way you're notified every time we upload the very best fantasy football podcast on the internet. We thank you again for being a fan of the Upside, and we will see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.